Hello, this is Jamz Supernova and this is Between the Lines. It's a brand new podcast and it's all about exploring kind of what it says on the tin, the words between the lines, the messaging behind the songs that I have grown to love. And welcome, BINA.
Hey Jamz, thanks for having me.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. I was trying to recall when we first met, but I think physically...
The first time we met in person was only like last August.
Right, in Spain.
In Italy.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's because you're a touring girlie. This is why. It's just like, which international country was it?
European country was she in? Yes, you're right.
It was Italy, Organic Music Society.
Yeah,
that was
both
fun.
Performing, 100 Cap Festival, super cute vibes. We hung out the day after. You met my mom, met the baby. Yeah, all of that.
It was so cute.
But I do remember supporting your music on BBC Radio 1 Extra during my time there.
From pretty much not so far after I started making music. Like, I remember sending you, like, I remember you playing Mercedes to Hades. I remember you playing like some of my earlier tracks, like, and you've been tapped in since like Summer Breeze times. So like that was the first single I put out in 2018.
And you did give me a care package.
I did. Oh yeah.
So people that sometimes make music for the radio girlies or guys, they will send, a little package to say thank you. And you sent me some incense with your face on it. And some socks. And then there was something else.
There was like a engraved incense holder that had the project title on it.
It was cute.
I was even mad proud of that because I had engraved that. Like, I was sitting in my room like and I remember being like to my manager, I was like, I want to like make some really cool like care packages for like just to say thank you to the people that have been showing me love for time. And like I was like, I'm going to engrave these incense holders, but I'm going to do it myself. I've already bought the pen. I bought the pen and I was like, I don't know if I could do it. She was like, don't anger me. Like, you've bought everything now. You might as like make sure
it's an expense.
Like do it. And I was like, it was more just my lack of like trusted myself at the time. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it look cute, but I did it and I was really proud of it.
It was cute. I remember it. And so you gave me a gift and I have a gift for you before we jump into this podcast. So I remember when we were in Italy that you ordered white wine of some sort. Now, I'm a wine lover.
Why?
So I got you a little wine. It's called a wine breaker. It's meant to like break the ice. You don't have to drink it, but it's for you, a gift from me to you. And I sort of thought about it as something that would like mirror the song, mirror what I think about you as a person. So I've gone for a tutti frutti white wine.
That's very correct. Oh, thank you.
Can I hug? Yeah, we can hug. Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Let me know how it tastes.
I will. I'm such like a sweet wine girly if it is wine. And like when I was in Italy, I actually bought like Moscato wine when I was there and brought it back.
Nice.
And like, but me and my friends only just opened it like at the end of last year because we were like, there's a lot to celebrate. Like let's open the Moscato. I didn't have a corkscrew, so we used a lighter to like get the cork out. I don't know why my friend knew to do this, but he was like, you just put a lighter to it and it expands the glass. And then
that's an interesting technique. Normally I'm a plug and a bam.
Is that the...
Yes, it's a bit ghetto. That's what we do in the ghetto, baby.
That's what we do in the ghetto.
But let me know. It's a natty wine. So send me a review. So wine breaker out of the way. Let's jump straight in. And we're going to be breaking down your single, Dopamine, produced by Subculture. So I want to know kind of physically, where were you when you wrote the song?
I was in Subculture studio. So I remember the first day I went there and I was just like looking around in the space, and he has all these things, obviously like instruments, had his drum kit there and like all these other like percussive things and like art on the wall, and I was just like, this feels very conducive to like a place where I can really get in my bag. Because when I'm writing, like I just like to be able to anchor my eyes to places so my mind can just go off to wherever it needs to go. So I remember like just lying on the couch and then like just thinking of the ideas. And my first step was just to like have my voice note out so I could get the melodies and the flows. And then I like put on my headphones, listen to that, and then start writing down.
So beat first, words after.
Well, the beat kind of came together like around the same time. So he started playing the drums while I was there, and then played the keys, and that was all that was there. And then as he was doing that, then the flow came. So I guess you could say, part of the beat first, vocals after, then more beat elements.
Right. And did you know what you wanted to write about? Did you kind of have a concept, or was it kind of within that moment, looking around, digging deep, hearing, people talked about the drums, actually. I've seen some comments saying, oh, I love the drums.
People love the percussion.
Yeah.
It's so sick.
Was it hearing the percussion that you're like, okay, so this is how I'm gonna...
Yeah.
Or this is coming out of me now?
It was a mixture of things. Like, I would say I didn't have a concept in mind. Most of the time when I go to studio, I don't have a concept in mind. I'm just like, okay, what am I going to channel today? And I remember hearing the percussion, and immediately I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is inspiring something. And I actually was on the tail end of a cold, so I felt like most of like my range was kind of restricted to like the lower end. So I was like, okay, what can I do that's like really cool? It's like I'm not gonna be jumping all over the place with runs because my range is gone. So I was just like, okay, hiding from your neighbours, hugging all the strangers. And I had that rasp as well because my cold was there, but like it just ended up sounding really sick. Yeah. And I was just in my voice note with the flow, and then like coming up with the words as I went. The second verse actually came later, like after the first session, maybe actually a few sessions later. But the first half of the song, like through to the chorus, was like all made in that sitting. And I think it was a combination of being in the space, hearing the drums played live as well, like in front of me. It was just like, I don't know, it just made me feel like this is where I'm gonna go. But I think it was less cerebral than that. It just was like I was just feeling something.
Yeah.
And then I just channeled that.
But that's what I feel like, something that people maybe resonated with, because it went kind of viral on TikTok and on socials, or way before the song came out. So you had this 3-month rollout. I maybe caught it like midway. Yeah. And I just saw you do it. You were sitting on the train.
Yeah.
And it was like, hiding from my neighbours. Yeah. Hugging all the strangers. Yeah. And I saw another video of you twerking. Like literally hiding from my neighbours. Yeah. And I just thought it was really, those first 2 lines just straight away were what kind of got me, hiding from your neighbours, hugging all the strangers.
Yeah.
What how did it go viral? Like, was there a moment that you're like, oh my God, it's happening?
It was so mad, because I'm not gonna lie, Jamz, like I didn't expect it. Like I just was like, okay, I really like this song that I've made, like let me show it to everyone and see what they think of it. So I started posting it on TikTok, and then later I started to post it on Reels, and like it picked up a lot of like I guess momentum on TikTok, but then it really like popped off on Reels, and I was like, okay, like I'm just a girl. Like I remember the first video that I posted, I was just like dancing in the camera, and I think part of it was like the lyrics. Another part was kind of who I was calling into my world. Like I just was like, like if you like this type of music, then, or like it's just a girl writing about this thing, and then people were like, oh, like I really resonate with this, or like we love the writing, or like the percussion goes dumb, or like that drum roll at the end is crazy. Like, so I think a lot of people like really just gravitated to the overall vibe of the song, because remember I wasn't posting a lot of the song at the time. It was probably anything between 4 and like 15 seconds of the song. Mad. So it was just like
new world. yeah
it's mad. So I literally was even sitting there like, okay, like this is really happening. And I guess it's just an example of like me just kind of doing everything from like a heartfelt place. Like when I came to the writing, I just was like feeling something, and it was coming off of a really busy summer where I was like, I literally live next door to these people, and I never see them, and then, or I'll see them like once in a while, and it feels like I'm like dodging them. I can hear when their door opens and closes, but I never see them. Or even like some of my friends that I didn't see for time because I was busy, but I was meeting so many people like day to day, like
us. In Italy.
Us meeting in Italy for the first time after being aware of each other for years,
hugging all the strangers.
Mad. Like we hugged a lot of strangers in Italy that day. We really did. Like, and that's exactly kind of where it was coming from. It was like that juxtaposition between like having these like really close like connections with people that I'll meet when I'm like touring and like performing and stuff, but like closer to home I was feeling like I don't know the people that are literally right next door to me. It's kind of a trip. And I guess maybe people resonated with that in their own like different ways. And then the beat was dumb as well. So
you built this whole like narrative of it being like, you're in a BBC drama, maybe you're killing Eve, maybe you're part of like, Luther. So all of the content was kind of like you as a kind of detective or hiding.
It's because the song felt like that. Like I remember when I was listening to the demo, when I was like on my way home from studio, I was like, I don't know why this is just giving BBC drama. Like the keys, like the drums, it's just like, it just builds up like a lot of tension. And it's like anytime I watch these shows that I was talking about, it's just like it really feels like when like Luther's like chasing after someone, or like when somebody's sent out on like a secret mission, like in Killing Eve or something like this. I was just like, I don't know, it just really gave that. And then I'd sometimes like sync my songs to like footage from these shows and be like, oh wait, no, it goes like, it actually goes together so well. Like, so it was just like a whole, it's a very visual song, like just in the audio alone. Like,
I mean, let's read that first verse. It's hiding from your neighbours, hugging all the strangers, bug is too contagious. Let the money make you, one day you're famous. Please come back and save us. Remember when we used to play hopscotch in second grade? So we're going to dive into the lines. This is Between the Lines with BINA exploring dopamine. So we've got that. So that bit goes viral. That happened. You know, it's not. This podcast is not about virality. It's about the actual. You know, the actual words. So I wanted to know the point of view then. You know, so who's the protagonist? Is it who?
In that song, in that verse, I guess it's me in my head, like kind of thinking about, and I guess I've written it from the point of view of people watching me go about my life and being like, oh, like, look at BINA, like she's doing this, she's doing that, like, you know, don't forget about us when you make it, like when you're big, remember, like we go way back type of thing. So I guess it was just kind of like the setup is, I don't think it's a direct conversation that I'm having with somebody, but I think it's like me imagining what people are thinking about me as I'm going about like my life, I guess, like building the world that I want to, like building the world of my dreams, like making music, doing that, going around the world, whatever. And I guess it was kind of inspired by things that I'd heard people say, like even when I was like doing a fraction of what's happening now, where it would be like, I remember one time I bumped into a few people I'd seen from school, and some of them like some of them came and were like, oh hey, like, hey Serena, what's good, da, 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 da. And then like I remember saying to my friend like, oh, what happened with homie, like they didn't come. And then that's just one example of people saying like, oh yeah, like I feel like Sabrina thinks she's nice now, like since
a
we left school,
London
like like since she's left school, she's nice
now.
Or even before we left school, like even before we left school, I remember like when I went into care, like my life got very different. So when people saw like how my like appearance changed, how I got more confident and stuff, they were like, oh yeah, like Sabrina thinks she's nice. And it was just like, I guess that first verse was just a whole like combination of remembering times when people have like, well, it's the start of like, because there's another half of the verse where it gets even more into that, but like I guess like this first half is me imagining what people are thinking of me, like when they see me like online or outside doing my thing. So
it's crazy that we hold so much in what other people think of us. Like for me, like I know it sounds silly, but like if I was ever off school for one day, like people talk about me, they're talking about me. And the idea of people saying you've changed, you think you're better than me, was something that could really like, I don't think I'm better than you.
No, it does me like
care?
It's so frustrating that we care, because even like I don't know if you're the same, but it's like the time that I've spent with you seem like a fairly like carefree person, like you're just like, I'm just out here,
sometimes.
I'm just getting my life. But sometimes but I guess it goes to show that all of us, we do kind of think about these things, and when you're being perceived a lot of the time, you kind of just get used to like, oh, people are perceiving me 24/7, when half the time they're probably not thinking about you. They are trying to pass their maths exams, like they are not thinking about you in school when you're not there, like you're not
the main character, right?
It's not that deep, but we care
physically,
we do care,
you know?
physically. And I do think a lot of it is from like, I guess like people gone before us in the history of like, I guess being in the public eye, like people are like, oh, like so and so has changed, like this changed them, the opportunities changed them, the money changed them, their new friends changed them. And it's just like, I'm just a girl. Like when I go home, and I think I wouldn't say that I plan it that way, but I'm really grateful that like my friends, a lot of them like are really grounding in the sense that like they acknowledge like, okay, cool, you're doing cool things, but they don't do this thing that makes me feel like any less of a human than I am. So I think like when you understand like, oh, I'm actually a human being, I wouldn't say just a human being, because being human is pretty big, but like I'm a human, like I do day-to-day things,
and you're allowed to change,
and you're allowed to change, like it's part of the process of growth. But it's like my essence is still the same, like I'm still, if you liked me up until the end of school, you like I'm not that much different apart from what I'm doing with my time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is quite like frustrating sometimes to think that maybe people think that you think you're all this or you're different and stuff, but it's like, okay, I have changed, but not in the ways that would make you want to feel like resentful towards me or anything like this.
I heard a great podcast, and they were like, whenever you kind of think the anxiety builds up, it's like, let them. I mean, like,
is it Mel Robbins?
Yeah, yes, it is
it's
Mel Robbins.
Yeah. I literally listened to that.
Let them.
Yeah, the let them theory. I was like, no, that actually kind of changed my life.
It did. I needed it.
I needed to hear that. Yeah, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. Yeah,
let's jump into the second half of the verse. So fucking how you changed up, all the rings and makeup, walking like it's blue blood running through your veins. But if I'm not mistaken, you don't know what pain is. Just a couple of breakups, crying on the train home. I wanted to zone in on that actually second part of you don't know what pain is.
Yeah,
just a couple of breakups. Yeah, crying on the train home.
We've got a lot to unpack. I guess like especially with the line you don't know what pain is, it kind of comes from that place of maybe being made to feel you don't deserve to complain about things when you're doing stuff that you said you've always wanted to do, or that maybe people around you like are feeling inspired by. But it's like there's still those painful moments, like, and I guess kind of the whole just a couple breakups is like the minimizing of it in the way that you might feel like other people, or that I have felt like other people have done, sometimes to me, sometimes to other people around me, that are like doing things that are publicly perceived to be like just like really amazing. And it's like, oh, like, and a phrase I hear a lot is you're doing bits, and it's like, yeah, I am, but like there's other pillars of life other than like, hey, like catch me here, or like, oh, my show just sold out. It's like, yeah, I be crying sometimes, because like if it's not a heartbreak, like sometimes it's just like working through like old wounds, and that can be a very emotional process. Or it might be like you falling out with a family member, or maybe you're having a tight month and you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this rent, child. Like it's just like a lot of things still happen that are like
not on the grid,
that are not on the grid, that are still like painful and frustrating. And even if they're not like things that are actively happening, I just think the process of continuously like healing from things can be a very tumultuous one. And so it's like when people don't know you and think like, oh, you don't know what pain is, or even I've been told a couple times. I remember once a social worker said to me like, oh, like I was like, oh, I think I'm ready to go into therapy. And then they were like, yeah, you don't seem like somebody that needs therapy, like your head is very screwed on your shoulders. And like it kind of felt like it was like minimizing like the effects of things that I've like experienced in life. And I was just like, I don't know, it really frustrated me at the time. And I guess that kind of came up when I was writing the verse. And then just other examples of when people have made me just feel like either you're not feeling any painful things because you're smiling online, or when I meet you, you're mad bubbly. But I'm like, this is why I write these songs, because there has to be an outlet for these other things. Because day to day, I feel like I'm just quite a bubbly person. So a lot of people are just like, yeah, you know, like either you don't know what pain is, or you don't experience it that often. So
you touched on going into care and you know, having a social worker. And one of the things you prefaced the song with was about sort of survivor's guilt. So could you maybe tell me a little bit about your childhood and kind of sort of in reference to the songs as well? Yeah,
sure. Like I guess I had a pretty like shaky start to life. Like when I was growing up, I was like in and out of care. Like my family was really big, and I guess like there would be times where my parents would get a bit like overwhelmed by that, all that responsibility and things. Is really hard raising so many kids. And so like we went into care, then we went back home, then we went back into care again. So it was like very like up and down. And then the final time when we went into care, we didn't go back home. So I spent like the majority of like my teenage years and into some of like my early 20s like in foster care. And it was really interesting like going through school, because like when I did go into care, I was in year 9, and I remember it was so weird, like because they picked us up like on like what they said was like an emergency, when they literally picked us up from school. So everyone,
you don't go back.
We didn't go back.
Yes,
we didn't go back home. So like I went in my school uniform. I went to school. I thought it was a normal day. And then like we got they send these little like notes from reception to like come down to reception. So we got me and my sisters like got a note to come to reception, and I was like, oh, like maybe they're going to invite us on a school trip or something. I thought it was going to be something cool like that. And we're sitting in reception for time, and then we went into this other room, and these social workers and like police were in there like waiting, and like we had they like interviewed us, and like obviously we were just kind of like, well, we want to go home, so we're just gonna like, everything's chill, like everything's Gucci, like why are you here for us, like and then obviously they told us like that like we weren't going home, like we were going like now, and they were like because they had to like do it like as a matter of urgency, they just like took us in police cars. So the next week when I came into school, people were like, oh, like what happened, did you do something? I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. But then after a while I realized that when I stopped being like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, then I was like, oh, well, no one can use it against me, because even the fact that I'm like, oh, my social worker, like it's a normal day, it's like part of it is because I've got used to that being a part of my life. Like I'm still pretty like cool with my parents, I still speak to them, but I'm also like have a really good relationship with my foster mum as well. So it's like it's I've made it a normal part of my experience, because I'm like nobody can use it against me, because it's already a normal thing. Like no one can say, well, like, because I know some young people, they're like, if they go into care, they're like, I don't want to talk about it, or sometimes they won't even like tell like partners or friends.
And not told anybody.
We could have gone back the next week and not told anybody, and I didn't tell people for like at least the first couple months. And I remember my English teacher was like, I can see there's a lot going on in your life, maybe start journaling. And she gave me this exercise book, and that's when I started journaling, and now I've been journaling for like 10 years, which is like a whole other thing. But like yeah, like I had a lot going on like throughout school and like my late teens and my early 20s as well. But I don't actually have any real regrets about the experience, because I'm like, it's kind of led me to where I am now. But I guess like what does make me feel a bit bad sometimes is seeing the other people. So for example, like seeing how my parents like were processing it when we all left, and for years like it was really hard for them. And even now I don't think it's the easiest thing to really deep, like sometimes
a big portion of your life with them was not in the way that they would have hoped.
Exactly. And it's like, even for me it's really weird, because I'm like, now I'm like navigating how to have like a parent-child relationship like with my parents, because I'm like, okay, the last time I lived with you guys I was 13, 14, like I'm 24 now. So it's like they're having to get used to having an adult child, which they didn't get to experience the linear process of me growing up, and I didn't get to experience the linear process of having them in my life. And just having things like, telling my mom about like when I'm experiencing things with like relationships, and like maybe having my dad like give me the self-confidence to make sure I like respect myself in these relationships, for example. These are all things I had to learn like by myself, and then also figure out just how to navigate having like a normal like relationship with my parents. And it's still a lot of learning I'm doing now.
You said you were unpacking.
I'm still unpacking a lot. Like I started therapy like a couple years ago, and I finished that. But I'm like, now that I've done like a big chunk of healing there, I do want to start it again, because I'm like, there's always debris that's left after you like do any form of healing, if that makes sense. It's like you've cleansed the wound, but there's still like healing and scabs and stuff. So I'm just like, that's the next phase.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like, analogy of way you spoke about it, and I just think it's such a hidden part of society.
Yeah,
it's very rare to meet somebody that has been in care, but they
think it's Stacey Beaker. They think it's
Tracy Beaker. I said Stacey Beaker.
They think
that's
it's
the
Tracy.
Prequel.
Yeah, Stacey Beaker is the prequel. No, literally, when I was in school, I remember like I'd get so many questions like, oh, is it like Tracy Beaker, or like, why didn't you go back home? Like, oh, if it was me, I wouldn't let them. What happened? They would be like, what happened? Or they'd be like, obviously, because like my family, like we're Nigerian, so like sometimes if like any aunties would hear about it, like if I was in the hairdressers, they'd be like, oh, is that your mum? Like when my foster carer would come to pick me up, and I'd be like, no. They'd be like, oh, where's your mum? Is she not in the country? And I'm like, she is. And it's like, oh, it's a shame. And I'm like, like enough, like leave me alone. And then like kids at school being like, oh, if it was me, I wouldn't let anyone like take me away from my parents, type of thing. So I'd feel like really guilty about that, because it's like maybe I didn't like do my side of things to make sure I could have a normal life at home. But then it's like,
it's
so many factors. And I was literally a kid, like I was 13.
Course,
so
yeah.
like,
I mean, my mum works in education, and it's literally what she does, you know, and it's very rare that it gets to that stage. But you never hear from the experience of the child. She'd come home and be like, yeah, the police had to come today. We had to take the kids to a separate room. They had to be interviewed, you know. The parents are like, where's my, you know. It's a lot. It's intense. So for you to have actually, you know, to hear you haven't actually gone through it and it not just be this kind of story is... it's really profound, I think. And with the survivor's guilt, which is what you kind of talk a lot about through this song, because you've I guess on that, maybe on the surface it looks like you've normalized it, you're doing all the steps, you maybe out of the kids that have gone into care, you are doing better than most. Is there some guilt within that?
There is, because of the fact that, as you said, like there are a lot of kids and like young people that go through care and don't come out on the other end like with some sense of self still, or like the desire to turn their lives around, or even if they do have the desire, they may be still so like wrapped up in the pain of the experience that it's really hard to shake that off. And even for me, like it's really hard. I just guess I like it. I'm not going to pretend it's easy, because it's not, but like, so there's an element of that, like beating the statistics in a sense. There's an element of guilt there. Like even they say things to you like when you leave and you when you leave care, they always are like, oh, these are the stats, this is what usually happens. Sometimes young people like lose their homes to X, Y, and Z, or this happens or that happens. And I'm always just like, I want to run away as far as possible from being part of those types of statistics, because I don't want that for my life, and it would just feel like I'm regressing back. And like I remember saying in therapy that was the case, and they in my form of therapy that I did, they'd always ask like, what's the worst that can happen? And just for me, the way my brain was wired, I was like, if I regress, that's like death for me. Even if it's not literal death, I'm like, if I regress back to where I've come so far from, then I might as well be done. Do you know what I mean? But so there's that. And then the other aspect is, as you said, like sometimes even though things may get flagged to like the like local authority, the social services, whatever, some kids are in what may be considered even worse situations than what caused us to have to leave, and still have to stay in that. So there's an element of me that's like, even though like I didn't get to have a normal like relationship with my parents growing up, I'm glad that I was able to go and have a healthy teenagehood, and not everybody was able to have that. That has gone through things like in their home situation, they still have to be there. So there's that, and then as I said, also like the guilt of sometimes there's an element of, you know, you're trying to be like loyal to your family and not give away that there's like so much going on at home. But in our case, a lot of it was just visible. So it was like, even if we didn't say anything, it was just like school or this person or that person would like see things, but I would still feel like guilty sometimes, where I'm like, oh, like I don't want to be the reason why my parents lose their kids, so I have to like be careful in that way.
So much pressure
from all angles. And then also when I was at school, it was kind of like I was doing really well at school, and I was like, I felt the pressure to keep that up, and I did, because I've always just kind of been a person, when I've gone through stuff, I have an outlet. So before I started making music, it was just diving into my book. So I was just like, I'm just gonna like excel with my studies and stuff. And school was really happy with that, but they also, when I decided to leave to do music, they were like, oh, like, but you know, you're a star student and stuff. So there's been so many different, like, I guess, like markers in my life where I felt guilty or responsible for upholding I don't know, a certain perception of
other people's
expectations of me, and also my expectation of myself to not spiral, because I know how easy it is to do that if I was to allow myself to do that. So yeah, I do a lot of things to make sure that I don't get in that space, and like I guess like music is one of them, a large part of it actually. I can't tell you the amount of times that people have said to me like, oh, like if it was me, this would be how I'd respond, this is how I respond, you don't really seem like you have these things. And I'm like, yes, because I'm allowed to kind of like I guess, unravel in the songs I write, or like, even if I'm not unraveling directly about those things, just having that space to create kind of helps ground me a lot. So
you can hear it. It's sort of so poignant in the writing, and it is kind of, I feel like it's all there. Like, you know, if we thinking about what you've just heard, and then you're like, dry your eyes and come and fuel our highs. You've got your songs and flights. You're meant to love this life. Who cares if you can't find a place to run or hide? You owe us all your time. And that's the expectation.
Yeah, that's the expectation thing.
The pull from everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I've only probably mentioned like a fraction of the places where I feel pull in different directions. Like, as I said, I come from a big family. There's pull there sometimes, like, and especially because I'm one of the older kids as well. So yeah, there's pull from so many different directions sometimes. And I guess when I wrote that chorus, even the way I'm delivering it's very like demanding, very like a petulant, like it's just like non-stop. And that's kind of like how I would feel sometimes. It's just like being pulled in all these different directions by other people's expectations. And I guess like, when I think about it now, maybe I play into it by allowing these people to have these expectations and not be like, wait, no.
I mean, that's boundaries, which we are like, always learning.
Yeah, I'm always learning. And like, even when it comes to boundary setting as well, it's like trying to find that balance between setting boundaries, but also giving people the let them theory space, like giving them the space to just, giving people the space to people, do you know what I mean? And then like deciding for yourself, do I like how this makes me feel?
Yes.
In that case, am I going to stay, or am I going to go, or am I going to impose like expectations on them?
Mel didn't get to. She said let them, but then she didn't. She made it more like you should think about it for yourself. Well, like if you're, I don't know, for example, if your friends want to go for brunch and you're not invited, like let them.
Yeah.
Why do you care about not going for brunch? But then my thing is like, well, maybe I don't want to be friends with them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, literally.
Let them, but I'm not your friend no more.
But yeah, and that's the next phase though. It's like you can let people without having to still be there and experience the thing you don't like. You can just be like, it's just more about not trying to control people and mold them into this thing, because that's where the anxiety comes from. Because it's like, what if I say to them, I'd really like if you invited me out when you go to places, and they're like, okay, we will, and then they don't, and now you're heartbroken because you're like, you've let me down again. Like, it's just like, how far do you let them like before you're like, okay, that's just your thing that you like to do, and that's fine. I just don't need to be like privy to that. I don't need to experience that. And that, I guess that's part 2 of the let them thing.
Okay, I feel like it's weaving. I like the fact you had like a post chorus, and I'm kind of like, since starting this podcast, like actually not just reading the lyrics but looking at the structure as well. So then you've got like, look how far you've climbed, glamour stole your shine, left your soul behind, and then it kind of repeats, but it's sort of done on like a PSA style, like megaphone. What's the impact of having for you a post chorus?
It just kind of like drives home like what I'm saying in the chorus. Like, if I think of the chorus as the summary of everything I've set up in the verses, the post chorus is like the summary of that, or like I guess like a fireside thing, like, oh, and another thing, like, dry your eyes, you owe us all your time. And then it's like, but also like, see, you're doing your thing, and you're in this industry, and especially the music industry, you hear all these things, especially from like, I don't know, like jaded parents, or maybe people who've been in the industry and seen some things they didn't like, and they're like, oh, like there's so much dark things that goes on, all the glamour, like it's all dark. And I guess that's where the like glamour stole your shine thing comes from. And I don't know, I guess so far I can say I'm thankful that I haven't experienced any of the things.
You're a wholesome girly.
I'm a wholesome girly. And it's like, but also,
they say, you sell your soul. She must have sold her soul.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I guess the post chorus is just kind of exploring another like branch of the same, like, I guess, I don't know, stem, I don't know. I ran out of steam with the analogy.
With the tree branch.
Like another branch to the tree.
Another branch to the tree.
But it's like another branch off of the branch. That's what the post chorus is for me.
If I said like, what's been a style of writing, like, you know, because to me it's like punchy, it's funny, it's quite satirical, you know, dark humour,
mad. I love a dark humour
and direct, BBC drama.
You know? What's my style? I would say it's quite conversational in some elements, and quite confessional as well. And I guess like the dark humor kind of do like the humor aspects of it kind of lighten some of the topics. Like there's another song of mine and people always bring it up with Just a Sec, where I'm like, you say you love me, did I ask you? And like I guess like the did I ask you part is a bit like, it's a bit jokes, but it was kind of was like how I was feeling. I'm not gonna lie, when I said did I ask you, I was pissed, like I was angry, like I was not trying to make people laugh, but here we are. Like I think, and also another thing I've realized about myself sometimes is, and my friends have brought it up to me, when I'm annoyed or when I'm angry, it doesn't always show on my face. Like I might be like, yeah, you're being mad irritated,
you're smiling,
right now. I'm not gonna lie, but inside my blood is boiling. But like, yeah, I would say my writing style is confessional. Like I guess humorous in some ways. When I think of songwriters that I like, I can put them in a category, and I don't know if I have the word for it, but it would be like Frank Ocean, SZA, Ari Lennox. I feel like they all kind of display traits that I really like in writing. Napalm as well. They all just display traits in writing where it's like they just go off to like a different corner of their mind, where it's like everyone's felt like this and everybody's like, everybody wants to say this, but no, I wouldn't think to say it in that way.
Yeah, but then it becomes cultural.
Then it becomes cultural, exactly. Like
SZA, you know, for example, or Ari Lennox, like, you know, that song about living on your own.
Yeah, new apartment, yeah. Even like Chicago Boy, when she's talking about like, oh yeah, like we're gonna have a little link up before I go and catch my flight and go on tour. Like, even SZA with like Supermodel, and like in Go Gina, when she goes, picking up a penny with a press on is easier than holding you down. I was like, that's so real. But it's like nobody would think to compare like holding down someone and sticking by their side as being more difficult than if you have long nails and trying to pick up a coin. Like it's visual writing. So like you're trying to pick up a penny with your
press-ons,
like with your nails. Like that's so real. And it's like I think I write quite visually as well, and you'll hear it even more in like some of the other songs that I'm working on, like that are to come. But yeah, visual, confessional, conversational, mildly humorous.
I like that. It's like, that's in the tags. I kind of thought it was a bit like hip hop in some of the approaches of what you were writing about, kind of, you know, maybe more so of leaving people behind, people thinking you're better. It's kind of from like a hip hop bravado kind of space, you know.
Do you know what's so funny? Like I literally had listened to a song, I forgot the rapper, it might have been, I don't think it was Exhibit, but my friend sent me a song and he's like, don't forget him, don't forget him, don't forget him, don't forget him. I can't remember for the life of me.
We're gonna have to Shazam that section.
Just everyone Shazam that section. Like we're gonna find out the song, but I can't remember for the life of me the name of the song. But my friend had sent me the song like maybe a month before Dopamine came out, but Dopamine had been written, as you know. I've been teasing this.
Viral.
Been viral,
man.
Been viral. Like been out here. Like the song had been in the world for a minute, even before it came out. But
we
anyway,
could put that on the mixtape. So like Go Gina, you know, Frank, Ari Lennox, and Exhibit.
That's the mixtape of like
of Dopamine.
Of Dopamine. Like fans of like put on BINA. These are all the other artists you got to play after and add to the queue. Yeah.
Let's go into the second verse. So watching as you take off, hold our names up. You know we major, and don't forget our faces and all the favors now that you're major. Can't invite us to the places where Chardonnay flows. Are you ashamed of all the traits you run away from? When we display them for you, they paid off. It's so weird. Sorry, like reading the lyrics in front of people is the hardest.
You went in the flow. I was literally there like, what else?
I'm just like in my head I'm stuttering.
No, you did that.
But the bit that I want to zone in on is part of like the last part of the conversation, which I really picked up on out here, was all the traits you run away from, when we display them for you, they paid off. That's a read. What does it mean?
I don't know why I was dragging myself through the mud so much. Oh my god. Yeah, so I guess that line, when I wrote it, it was kind of like, and I wouldn't say it's a critique that I've seen personally of myself. I don't know, time will tell, maybe ciao, we'll see. But it was more about like, I see a lot of the times like these rappers or like some artists that get like celebrated for having certain qualities, like being loud or like being like boisterous or being considered like ratchet or whatever, or even like things like, I don't know, amongst like artists, it's really a thing. Everyone just swears, everyone F's and blinds. It's just kind of the thing. And sometimes like, I guess like when I'm around certain people, like not so much my friends, but like some family members, like when I'll go and be talking to them how I normally talk, and I'm like, it's just it's just part of my expression. Like maybe they don't like those things, or maybe there are things that I don't like that other people do, but I see other people in like my peers that are maybe like popping because that's part of their personality. And so I guess again this POV is from like the people that were left behind, that feel a bit like resentful, because it's like you're out here, like you're doing all the things that if we were to do them on a normal day, or if we were to do them with you, like you'd say we're being embarrassing, or like we're like, I don't know, either cramping your style, or just doing too much, like you're running up in the place being ghetto, like what are you doing type of thing. And it's like, again, it's just kind of a point of view of the outside people perceiving me, and me having this fear in my head that this is what they're saying about me. I thought it was interesting. I thought about like cultural appropriation, and the kind of, you know, poverty porn in some ways. Like, is it that, you know, like, you know, do we celebrate, you know, or, I don't know, even the smallest there's so
aspect,
many elements to it, because it's
the
like
person that doesn't do good at school, like, I didn't do school, I hated school,
and now it's like, I didn't
it.
go to college, but now I made it. Like even like I was listening to a song the other day, and it was like, like remember when I used to study law, and it's like now I'm out here. So it's like there's so many elements. And I guess like when I write my songs, a lot of the inspiration comes from a seedling of something, but then it ends up growing into like this whole thing. Like for example, when I first started writing the song, I didn't come in like, okay, I want to write about survivor's guilt and all the woes of like of being perceived, but it's like or even all the woes of perceiving the world and breaking down the facades or whatever. But like there is an element of like the poverty porn thing that is like where it's just like there's so much hardship like in our faces all the time, like and elements of it, I wouldn't say they're celebrated, but it just feels like they get recorded and like thrown back at us. If it's not poverty porn, it's trauma porn. It's so many things that are just kind of like consumed as like blindly, as almost as entertainment. Do you know what I mean? It's really weird. And then, you know, people aren't like, I had a decent, you know, no one's gonna be like, it was, I had a good life, you know, like, everything was calm, like everything was good. Like, when I was growing up, things were Gucci's. It would be like, no, like I was in the trenches. Like, but you must have had something. And then it's almost like a sigh of relief when you're like, oh well, actually, like I did have a hard time with this thing. Like it's like it almost justifies that you deserve to have the opposite. Do you know what I mean? So I guess that's where the whole thing of like well, they can't invite us to the places where Chardonnay flows. Are you ashamed of? Like, I guess that's even a part of it as well, because it's like the are you ashamed of is like a double entendre. It's like, are you ashamed?
Double entendre, you know?
Like double entendre. Like it's like half of it is leading into the next line. Like, are you ashamed of all the traits you run away from? But also it's like, are you ashamed of where you came from? Like, are you not going to tell them about like all the hardships you've been through? Because part of that qualifies you for not struggling anymore. Like even when we all have this meme that we know, I struggled for 19 years, like Nella Rose being like, I suffered for 19 years, and it's almost like she felt like she had to say that, like
because of what she's experiencing
now. Like, I have 1 million followers, I'm getting all these brand partnerships and I'm doing so many amazing things, but I suffered for 19 years first, so that was like my investment into the life that I have now. And it doesn't always have to be like that. Sometimes it's just like, I just wanted to do something fun, parents were cool, life was nice. But it's almost like you're not allowed to do that. And if you do have the opposite, then you have to prove why you got there, which is what did you have to sacrifice? Exactly. And especially in the arts, that's it's very like, apparent. What did you sacrifice? It's true. It's so true. I think it's just such a profound song. It's such a fun song, you know, and such a profound song. And then hearing all the kind of, you know, the elements that went into it and how it came about, and you can understand why people really resonate with it. This conversation kind of helped me understand it as well, even more. Good. Like I feel therapeutic for you. It's been it's therapeutic for me, and it's like I'm getting a look into the minds of everyone who's like listening to the song and like absorbing the song into their lives. What messages have you had? Oh my god, I got a message from somebody within like the first couple of weeks of the song being out, and she was like, as a refugee from Congo, she was like, as an immigrant from Congo to South Africa, like I really resonate with the survivor's guilt thing, because obviously we know there's a lot going on in Congo right now. And she was just like, I really resonate with art as an act of survival
and resistance.
And I was like, wow, that's so real. Like I was almost on the verge of tears when I read that message, because I was like, that's crazy, because I just was writing like from whatever I'm writing from, but the fact that it can mirror in somebody else's life, and they can see the necessity for it in their life is really, it's really a trip for me. So I've had like messages like that, and like then a lot of the messages have mainly been like comments on just like how much people like enjoy the song, or like I need the song, or like inject the song, like these types of things. Like, so it's just like the song is fun to listen to, but there's a lot to unpack in the song as well, and it's really cool to know that people are doing that and in their own ways. It's like somebody also said like, oh, this is the type of song that makes me feel sad, but in a type of sad that I enjoy. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is sick. Like I've never heard like sadness be described that way, but it's like in your feelings, but reveling in you're reveling in the fact that you're in your feelings, and that's really cool. And like, I don't know, all these messages, the comments, like the influx of love for the song, it just kind of reminds me that like, oh, okay, like as much as this is healing for me, this is healing for you guys as well, or at least enjoyable. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So that's really cool.
I resonated with a lot, and I think that sometimes there's vibes guilt, and I think we grew up in similar areas, and just kind of like Southeast London, and it's like, you know, I always think like for every me there's like, you know, thousands, hundreds of other black girls that are equally as talented, could easily be sitting here, but for whatever circumstances have not led them to this point. Maybe they don't want that point, maybe they don't want to be sitting here, but what I'm saying is that the circumstances have led me here. Sometimes it's circumstantial.
Sometimes it is circumstantial, and it's like important to not neglect that, because as much as a lot of it is to do with like, obviously like we're gifted and we're thankful for the gifts we have, like there are loads of gifted people that are just like us, as you said, like that haven't been able to have these opportunities, and that can lead to a bit of guilt sometimes as well. So
have the guilt, but be grateful.
And also maybe try not to have the guilt, because it's just like, as much as like this is the path, it's not that the path be aware of the fact, have awareness of the fact that, okay, like some of this is circumstantial and like just right place, right time things, but also there are other things that happen that maybe even made you want to think, right, cool, I'm going to get on the airwaves and like do this, or I'm going to go and do this thing and go do that thing. And like, I know for me, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to do this music thing. I'm going to write. And not even so much so I can be like, so I can be famous. It's just like, because I was just like, okay, I'm journaling and that's helping a lot. But also there's more to say. So I need to sing, and I guess I like singing and writing, so here we are.
It's working for you. So with that in mind, what's a line or a phrase from the song that we should leave people with?
What is a line from the song?
Or a phrase.
So many. I'm gonna say walking like it's blue blood running through your veins, just because it's like, as much as when I wrote that line, it was kind of from a place of feeling guilty for walking in pride of myself. I think it's important for everybody to walk with that pride in themselves. So like, hold that line there, and next time you hear somebody say, oh, you think you're nice, or like, I think you're all that, like, or you think you're royalty or whatever, it's like, be like, yes, the fuck I do, like, yes I am, yes I am, yes I am, because I am. So I think that's one of the lines that I would leave with people.
Amazing. BINA, thank you so much. Dopamine, obviously it's out now. Go and run it up, go and listen to it, and think about everything we spoke about as you take it all in. Thank you, BINA.